So welcome everybody, I'm Ivy Rivera. I'm a psychic medium and a Taino Arawak, and I started a school about 9 years ago called the Ivy League Psychic Academy that began as a training ground for those who wanted to increase their psychic and mediumistic abilities. But as of today, it's expanded into a online international school, and we have, I think, about 25 classes ranging from everything from psychic mediumship to Reiki to astrology to numerology, you name it, we do it. Okay, so I have absolutely no confusion over the fact that this is not a gift. This is an ability that everyone has. It's innate, and if we don't tap in and use it properly, it actually causes dysfunction and disorders. So, okay, I'm trying to bring everybody back to their roots into a place of balanced health and wellness through this training. Now, today we're talking about something that really focuses on that topic specifically in a lot of ways. Today's free mini class is called Receiving the Download, having a manic reaction to direction. So a lot of people in recent years, I would say the last 3 to 4 years, have been talking about the download, and they make a lot of references to, oh, are you feeling the download? You know, has your energy been vibrating? And people say all kinds of sort of, you know, they make remarks that no one understands about, like, you know, the planetary shift is creating this download or that, or, you know, the angels must have downloaded it into you. And no one really talks about what that means and whether or not that's accurate and where it's coming from. Certainly what nobody talks about is that it could be easily misdiagnosed by a mental health practitioner as manic depression, okay? And this, even more importantly, we really need to wrap our heads around. So today we're going to be talking about what the download actually is, why it's happening, what the side effects are, and how you can use this in your life to better yourself in advance. What are the physical side effects of receiving a download? When a download comes into you, it is typically coming through your crown chakra, which is at the top of your head. So what happens during the process is that information, direction for your life is put into you. And it's not necessarily different than any other time you're channeling. Channeling happens all the time, voluntarily and involuntarily. But the major difference is that instead of it just coming through quickly and it being an instantaneous kind of message, the download is far more information, and it can almost overload the system in your body. So mentally, physically, emotionally, you have a reaction to it. It's sort of like what's happening right now when we look at the pandemic and we look at the quarantine and we look at everybody getting online. Well, everything's shutting down. Everything is just backed up. If that happens, you're going to have a very manic reaction, as the computer systems are, as anyone would. So the major difference between channeling a message and receiving an entire download is the quantity. Let's take a look at what the physical side effects are before we get back into that a little bit more. Physical side effects, receiving a download: constant urination, an inability to really stop going. Some people find themselves just sitting in the bathroom for long periods of time, just assuming I can't even leave here because I'm going to end up right back here. Especially at night, it can be really exhausting. Okay, so increased urination, even if you're not drinking more water and things like that. Itching, your skin crawling, scratching, feeling almost like you have a rash, but there isn't anything there. Okay, now you go to the doctor and you get tested for frequent urination problems or overactive bladder, and they say, you didn't pass the test. You go to the dermatologist and you say, I feel like I have a rash or my skin is itching, and they can't find anything. So we would say that these are sort of phantom symptoms of this. Now, this next one, organs vibrating or the shaking of your organs, I compare this a lot to what we see happening with Kundalini. And I'm not going to get into Kundalini today. Google it. I have other classes where I talk about it, okay? Now with Kundalini, I connect that more to the awakening. So we see with the younger generations of people being born, that they come and are born automatically into an awakening. So they've measured that their organs are vibrating, that they have a higher frequency and energy level. Okay, well, they're part of the awakening process, which is going on everywhere in the world. Now, Kundalini, I also think of this in terms of maybe one of my students who received an attunement. Kundalini is an opportunity for you to level up. And if you're going to increase your intuitive intelligence, your healing abilities, you're going to have to detox in some way. So it's like the chakras are detoxing. So the organs vibrating, the shaking or the detoxing would look a lot like Kundalini, and it could accompanied by things like random bouts of explosive diarrhea or drainage from the nasal cavities mostly. It could look like a chronic cough or a repeat cold. Then you keep saying, oh my God, everybody has the flu. No one has the flu. You're the only one who's sick, and you're not really symptomatic on a regular basis, and you're not contagious. Again, it's a phantom illness. We may also notice that you're literally vibrating. So your body may be vibrating. You could shake and feel like you're out of control, almost like muscle spasms. Now, this can cause for a ton of nervousness. And you could see how someone would instantly go into the doctor and wonder what's wrong. Okay, and if you go in there, and I can't prescribe a diagnosis, but you will be diagnosed probably with manic depression or some kind of psychosis. And this is where we don't want to get trapped with medications, okay, and things like this. Because if it is not that, and it is this, it's going to pass. And you just need to learn what it is and how to manage it. Okay. Aside from the body vibrating, the shaking, feeling, and let me just say this, is that nervousness? Is that anxiety? Not necessarily. Here's a big difference between having some kind of a mental disorder or some type of a manic attack. Just because it feels this way physically doesn't mean you feel that way emotionally or mentally. We have to watch out for self-fulfilling prophecies here. If you Google it, you WebMD it, or the doctor tells you, oh, you're vibrating, you're urinating a lot, you're having itchiness, and oh, well then it's this. And they show you 4 or 5 other symptoms to fit a diagnosis to get you on meds. Are you sure? Were you just convinced that you have these other ones? Shaking could make you think that you are feeling nervous or anxious or bad, but not necessarily. Maybe you're just shaking. That's okay. Okay, it's not that big of a deal. How about racing thoughts? This is where it gets a little more complicated. Your thoughts, once the download is really in, and it's digesting, which can take anywhere from 3 days to 3 weeks. And the information that's downloaded into you might not show up for months. We're going to get into that in a second. But during the initial download, it can cause for racing thoughts. Again, don't overthink this. Don't give it more power than what it deserves. Just because your thoughts are a little back and forth doesn't necessarily mean that you're not functioning. It doesn't necessarily mean that you can't drive the car or that you can't pay the bills, that you can't focus on your day-to-day tasks. It might just mean that you need to, for a few days or a few weeks, handle those things differently. Maybe delegate a little more. Give yourself frequent breaks. Understand that you want to stop if you start to feel that you're not being really productive. Okay, take a break, go back to it. And let me just stop right here. I understand some of the classes that I do are a little out there, okay? But for the advanced healer, for the advanced intuitive, you would understand this. And really, I would say for anybody, if you listen to what I'm saying right now and you start looking back on your life, how many of these little episodes do you think you had? I guarantee there's been a few, because nobody gets through life without these. This is every individual has this. Okay, what else? Out of control feelings. Well, what is that really going to look like? You could find that you are going through some very interesting emotional processing. And you could feel elated. You could almost feel really almost high and positive and energized. And people might look at you and say, wow, you seem overly optimistic. What's going on with you? This could also be associated with a manic episode, but it is also a sense of detoxing, which can mean that your emotions could seem out of control. You could have bouts of crying. You could have what might look like breakdowns. The thing is, we talked about Kundalini a second ago. That's part of the process. If you're going to move up, if you're going to level up, you have to detox. Every time the bus stops, somebody has to get off. New level, new devil. There's no way to increase in one area of your life, the law of the universe, without letting go of something. In order for one door to open, another door has to close. This is the law. So your feelings may very well be connected more to the detoxing process or the download itself than it is connected to the actual physical or what might look like it fits into symptoms of a disorder. Sleeplessness. Well, now the interesting thing about the sleeplessness here with the download versus the sleeplessness that goes on with a manic episode is this. You don't feel bad during a download. You could not sleep for maybe a month and still feel okay. You're not really getting the dark circles. You're not necessarily dysfunctional. You don't feel bad about it. You just can't sleep, or you sleep in short bouts, almost like naps. What happens during a download is that your body does not require what it once did. And during the shift, the evolution, the leveling up, the moving up, you're changing in many ways, mentally, physiologically, but you're changing, you're evolving. And as this happens, a couple key areas are going to start being different. Your appetite and your sleep patterns. You may lose a ton of weight. You may not require the same amount of energy going in or the same amount of sleep. But it's not a problem if you are healthy, if you feel healthy. And once the download is over, you can't expect it to last necessarily, okay? Like, yes, you have changed. You are permanently different, but it's not always going to stay at exactly that level, especially with things like metabolism and things like this. We will expect all of that to calm down. So eventually you're going to go back to sleep. Eventually you're going to probably go back to your old patterns, okay? But again, if you go to a physician and they tell you, oh, well, it fits into this category and this is bad and this is wrong and this is a problem and it's going to get worse, here's what you can expect next. Self-fulfilling prophecies. You're going to create that for yourself. Never was it necessarily going in that direction. Be very careful. Okay, do we have any questions on that before I move on?
No questions, but Joanna Rybicki says that she never knew there was a name for the organ or vein vibration before.
Yeah, Google Kundalini, and I don't see a lot on downloads, but I think that all of this is very connected. Okay.
So with all these symptoms, how long do they last? How long is this download expected to go on?
Okay, well, like I said, with the symptoms, it's going to last anywhere from 3 days to possibly a month or so. I think that on average, we're looking at 2 to 3 weeks. So it's really after like the second week that a lot of people start to go into the doctor and assume that something's really wrong. Okay, like, you don't want to ignore things that you're told are dangerous symptoms after like a week and a half, but it's by the second week that you would start to notice that maybe this isn't going to go away. Maybe this is something more. So yeah, pretty average, 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, but it could be longer. And I think that it's very rare to see anyone who had a real download and it be shorter than 3 days. So I would just prep for at least a week. Yeah. So who is most affected by this? Well, everyone is affected by it. Every human being who came to Earth came here to accomplish tasks, to learn lessons, and to fulfill a life contract. What is written within your life contract, everything in there is on a deadline. So your ancestors, your spirit guides, God, the angels, everyone in the universe that is communicating with you and helping you from the other side all the time is just trying to get you to stick to deadline. Because if you don't fulfill your life contract, eventually you're going to kick the bucket and you're going to have to reincarnate and do it all over again. So everyone wants you to meet those marking points. And as you approach a marking point, things like this will intensify because deadlines, or I call them pivotal points when I do life contract readings, these are opportunities, again, for you to level up. And often you can't level up. Not always, but often. You can't level up without a download. It's sort of like going to school, okay? You can't get your PhD without showing up to grad school, and you have to start at the bottom. You have to get your master's, you have to move on. You can't have this type of information without getting rid of what no longer serves for the growth, getting rid of what is no longer true for you, and then being educated. And that's essentially what it is. Who else would be receiving these? Not just people who are approaching a deadline or a pivotal point, but also we have certain groups of people that receive them even a couple times a year, or they almost feel like they're receiving them constantly. And this is really hard. And these would be the light workers. Now, everybody this day and age wants to run a light working business. That does not make them an actual light worker. That makes them a business owner. There's a huge difference. Light workers struggle from the day they're born with attacks, problems maybe in the family, with problems with their development. They have extra burdens and extra battles. And this is to toughen them up, to be able to connect with the world around them that needs healing, to connect with the people. And while they're empowered to do this work, they're often disempowered by things like this in the medical community that keeps them sick and traps them. So if you came to Earth genuinely as a light worker, if that is in your life contract, you're here to heal people in some capacity, you're going to experience this more frequently. And probably to such an extent that other people would look at you and say, you got a problem. I don't think that's normal. No, it's not normal, I guess. If you look at normal people, they don't go through a whole heck of a lot. It's the light workers that go through all the trouble in life. So it might not look normal. And people who don't get it as frequently as us light workers, they're often just overlooking it, and they just think they just maybe had a couple weird days, whereas we have to examine it because of the rate of occurrence. So what does that mean? Well, it means that you need to get out there and heal the world. You need to start working with this energy and figure out where you're supposed to be putting your light work out. You are here to assist humanity. All right, so let's get back to what is a download. Different belief systems. What I'm hearing out there a lot today, whether you look at like Instagram, you just look at, different memes and things like this. I like to entertain these ideas, and they're usually, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, they're usually like kind of half right. Everything that I've seen through my clients and years of teaching, what Spirit has shown me in building this academy, is that it isn't just something that comes from angels. You can receive a visit from an angel, okay? They would not look like angels. That's a myth. So we're not looking at the wings and the long dress. They're actually long tubular beings, light beings. I do a class called Coffee with Your Angels. It's next week, isn't it?
It's coming up Tuesday.
Okay, there you go. So you guys should join us for that, or it's a video download. But when the angels come in, they're often confused for aliens because they do tend to light up an area, and they're very long, they're very tall, they're kind of tubular looking. Okay, so traditionally, that's not what we're shown, but that is what they actually look like. When they come, if they are giving you a download, you'd be held down. You can't move. Okay, so a paralysis. And they will either put the download in through the heart chakra or up through the top in the crown chakra. So it can be that. But it's not only that. Also, a lot of people believe that it's due to planetary shifts, that the planets move and give you downloads. I think that can also be true. And we know from our brilliant astrologer here, Christina Del Rey, who teaches astrology here at the Academy, she talks about this a lot, okay? And this is one area that I also acknowledge. When certain planets move, it can cause what looks like a download, or is a download, okay? But again, I don't believe that's exclusively what it is. Here's what I believe. You only get a download when you're ready for it. So you somehow earned it. And even though you don't remember doing it, your higher mind did ask for this growth and development and this opportunity to evolve, okay, in your life contract before you came to Earth. So this is a sign that you are on your life path. Something is actually working. So you receive it when you're ready, okay? Now, what really then is it? Here's a great example. It comes with direction. So a download is giving you direction on what it is that you're about to build in your life. And even if you're not ready, the universe doesn't care. And even if your circumstances aren't lined up, and even if you haven't really started, once the download is there, it would be best to quickly, my advice would be quickly move forward in the direction that you intuitively know you're supposed to be going in your life. Get rid of what no longer serves and build upon your future. Usually it has to do with your life's work. Not always necessarily a paycheck, but your life's work. I have a great example of how sometimes this information will stay hidden for a while, and you might wonder, what was that all about? So I had a friend who worked in paranormal and was getting into some very dangerous territory with exorcisms. And one day he was held down during his meditation. An angel came and downloaded information in through his crown chakra. Now, it took about 2 months, but when he entered into those situations with the exorcisms, he was able to recite the Bible from cover to cover, a Bible he had never read. Things like this, occur all the time. So you might know how you know things. This could be how you know things that you didn't educate yourself on. Something else I just want to point out. Don't forget that the ultimate goal of your life should be, and the way the universe sees your life experience, is in a larger community-oriented mindset. People live very, very small lives today. Smaller than ever, I imagine. Everything isn't about your feelings. Everything isn't about your life and your circumstances. Ultimately, the experience of coming to Earth is to help you to do your own growth and healing, to be able to give out to the larger community. And whether you like it or not, you are part of that community. So try to think bigger about things, okay? How can I use this to grow and develop myself and ultimately be able to contribute to the larger group and community? I was thinking about the mask situation just before we did this, and how so many people are fighting. They don't want to wear the masks. They don't want to wear the masks because they're thinking all about themselves, all about me. And there are other people who are like, no, regardless of me, I'm going to wear the mask. Because if I'm a carrier, I'm going to infect someone else. I could kill a child. I could kill an elderly person. I could just infect someone and cause their life to be a miserable series of circumstances. I think of myself as part of the community. Therefore, I will take responsibility. Okay, so when we don't look at it that way, we could very much feel like we are on a personal attack or something has gone very wrong in your life. And then we get trapped into a cycle of being misdiagnosed often, and it never goes anywhere. Okay, so more light work, more community. How to handle this type of manic reaction. All right, well, you feel uncomfortable, so you're pretty sure you have some type of manic situation going on here. No doubt, it could look that way, okay? And again, I can't prescribe or diagnose. Maybe you do have this. Maybe you have both, but maybe you don't. How can you handle it going forward? First of all, education is key. So this class should really help you. If you need additional information, you can get a reading with me. Check out some of the other classes online. Now that you're educated, you want to understand that it only happens if you're in need of a major adjustment on your life, if you're about to level up, if there's a brand new opportunity coming for your life. So quickly move with the flow of that energy. Don't hem and haw or be double-minded. And number 3, expect the direction. Expect the direction to come to you when you need it. A download is information and direction preserved within your brain. You don't even know it's there, and you don't know how it got there. But just like my friend who did the exorcism, in the moment when he needed those biblical references, there it was. The same way it channeled into you, it will channel back out of you when the time is right. So expect that that's going to happen. Don't dismiss this part of it. All right. Hopefully that was helpful. Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Take care.